There was a furry convention that's supposed to be America's Anthro convention that flopped, but it was doomed from the start. We'll be going through what the convention was supposed to be, the numerous conflicts it went through, and a personal story with somebody who attended without doing their research, showing the true dangers these conventions pose to the fandom. Free For All is a furry convention that is planned to take place at the Marriott Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Memorial Day weekend between May 27th and May 29th, 2022. The website features Getting Back to Our Roots and describes the convention as, they don't make things like they used to. This year, we're celebrating anthems by getting back to our roots to where it all started, a love for animals. It features guest of honor, 2 Griffin, prominently on the website. However, when it comes to how the fandom canceled him, it's described as, unfortunately in 2016, his excursion into comedy was considered cancelled after being accused of being a homophobic, transphobic, misogynist, racist, for the usual sin of declaring a belief and passion to the concept of free speech. By the way, free speech does not mean freedom of consequences. In contrast, there are multiple reports of 2 Griffins saying things that most furries wouldn't want to associate with today.
When it comes to slavery, he argues, I do not care if your people have been enslaved for the last 3,000 years. How often have you been a slave? If the answer is never, you have no right to especially as someone who has never owned a slave in their life.
Topic of suicide, he believes,
if you're in so much pain that you need to end your life because some other douchebag is calling you bad names and you deserve to be.
Talking about inappropriate advances towards underage individuals, he describes as
a loss of control, helplessness, perhaps some pain, being forced to do something you don't want to, shame and embarrassment. These are all unpleasant things. These are also unpleasant things that most people experience nearly every day.
The convention's rules are what you expect from no furry convention, but the more you look into it, the more it falls apart. Under registration, payment, and badges, the first rule is all attendees must be 18 years of age or older to attend this convention, no exceptions. This is standard for most conventions, as can be prohibitively expensive to make a convention for all ages due to the additional cost of insurance. Under behavior and dress code, there are more standard rules. This includes wearing sexual paraphernalia or fetish gear is prohibited in public areas. However, under COVID-19, this is where the facade starts to fall apart. It states, all attendees and staff are required to follow all local ordinances and rules put in place by the venue. Please resolve your personal position that the best way to protect yourself and your health while attending an event such as Free For All, and be curious to other attendees who are trying to protect themselves as well. This doesn't state that proof of vaccination is required, or at the very least, a negative COVID-19 test, which is pretty dangerous despite claiming that all attendees and staff are required to follow all local ordinances and rules put in place by the venue. But can I assume that there are no policies in place to start against COVID-19? This would be unorthodox as nearly all furry conventions have a COVID-19 policy in place, except Megaplex 2021 due to legal barriers to having these policies. On September 1st, 2021, the organization put a tweet announcing the convention and opening up pre-registration. As expected with all this, the reception towards the new convention has been overwhelmingly negative. The tweet got 350 likes for 1,400 retweets, most of them being quote retweets mocking the convention. Anthro West Open Organization, or AWU, is a group based in Tulsa, Oklahoma that is a 501c3 nonprofit. The website states, this organization is non-partisan and supports no political or religious causes. However, this statement is contradicted by the convention they're running, with many people in the unofficial chat putting that into question. There have been reports of an unofficial chat that has members who are racist, sexist, homophobic, and transphobic, on top of making threats and violence and theft to others. One of these people who made these threats is named Lupine, which will be important later. It's a very abhorrent look for the convention and the hotel venue who will be hosting it. They put out a statement on September 25th where they say, after enduring this for some time, the hotel has asked us to relocate for fear of civil unrest threatened by those who want to see this event be cancelled. Ever since the hotel kicked the furry convention out of the space for threats of violence and overall bad reputation the convention had, they got another location, another at the Glenpool Conference Center in Glenpool, Oklahoma, and we're staying at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites located in the same area. Ever since then, there hasn't been much action on the internet. On July 17th, a few weeks before the start of the convention, the Furry Raiders, a conservative furry social group, announced their support, staffing, and attendance of Free For All. The group is known for indirectly shutting down Rocky Mountain FurCon, a furry convention based in Denver, Colorado, which will later be succeeded by Denver. Before we get into the convention, we had to talk about the board members. Look at the website. It's not clear who's running the organization or conventions. It makes it pretty obvious what they're trying to hide. The most important member of the Woo Association is Peaceful, furry, fursuiter, and fursuit maker who runs Peaceful Creations and lives in Oklahoma. In 2019, there was a founder, former president, and former chairman of Tails and Toenails FurCon, and also assisted in founding the Woo Association. There were allegations filed by one Twitter user, where they stated they were hired on as a social media liaison back in 2019 for Tails and Toenails FurCon. From there, he fired a staffer for being pregnant, the substance started making racist jokes and started picking staff with people from their personal life. In June 2019, they wanted to post something for Pride Month, but Peaceful told them not to because it didn't align with the values of the staff, and they were soon fired. He pulled out his decision by not attending this event, and after, they learned that he'd been ousted from her position and took a large chunk of their staff, which were personal work friends with her. Despite the convention being gutted by her actions, it refused to die. They rejoined their staff and built it by bringing good people on, and was reborn better than before. Out of spite, Peaceful started to run a convention honoring freedom, tried to use the same venue as the former convention, the Marriott Tulsa Hotel Southern Hills, which ended up kicking them out shortly after learning about it. Not wanting to give up, Peaceful got a convention hosted at a government building, had a conservative group as staff, got a far-right guest of honor, and made a convention that reflected what she indeed was, and succeeded. After all that, the convention was a flop, is mocked on social media, as attendance were lower than a large fur meets, and attendance were socially ostracized. He's also friends with Candy Lupine. Michael Herman, better known as Candy Lupine, is one of the members of the unofficial free-for-all chat. There are some of his racist, transphobic, advocates for the death of police officers, and is overall an abhorrent individual. He was Attendee, an alt-right furry group. The group welcomed anyone who felt burned, which included many unsavory individuals. He made an account on Gab, a social networking service known for its far-right user base. When an African-American furry said, "I look forward to banning you from ethical comments as well," he said a racial sort of response. He has made comments that involve the execution of transgender people, comparing it to the Holocaust. And furthermore, a furry convention that takes place in Arlington, Virginia, the convention was handing out ribbons that have pronouns. One just says, "He has no home here." One says, "Trans rights are human rights," which he got mad at. Kane Lupine made more controversial statements in regard to underage people having intercourse. He said like, "If the minor consents, it is none of my business. And yes, minors can consent. I was a minor when I had sex, and I consented." This ignores the fact that most underage people are unable to understand the consequences of having intercourse, and therefore being taken advantage of by their older partner. Some may argue that the age of consent varies as stated in America, but this ignores the legal consequence of underage intercourse, as the age difference can create a paradigm that favors the older individual. When someone claimed that Kenny Lupine supported intercourse with animals, he responded, "I'm neutral on this topic. So long as no one's getting hurt, it's none of my business." He then responded with, "They do support it." Another person responded, "Many people out there don't support the LGBT community, but they aren't against it either." The difference between intercourse with animals and the LGBTQ community is that one hurts animals, while the other is how people want to assess their sexual orientation and gender identity. Recently, days before free for-alls would start, he was arrested for making terrorist threats over his public Twitter account against West Virginia elected officials as a result of pending abortion legislation. He threatened members of West Virginia legislators and all law enforcement officials that advocate or enforce abortion bans. Now, on the surface, you might think that advocating for abortion rights is good. Given the recent case of Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, many people are rightfully upset. However, what he is doing is threatening violence to those who are against abortion rights, which led him to being arrested by Homeland Security. It's unorthodox for someone who is in favor of abortion and against police to do so through violent means. Violence never solves anything, and only leads to more violence. Furthering inequalities through non-violent means like demonstrations and marching is far more effective to bring out change than through violent means. The convention started on July 29th, and looking on Twitter, it wasn't going so well. More tweets were mocking the convention and praising it. There were so many tweets using the hashtag that was trending on Twitter. It's something that only the largest furry conventions can achieve. According to a Twitter user, there were only 83 attendees at opening ceremonies, and the first two places only had 33 fursuiters, which goes to show how small of an audience convention had. According to the outside who attended the convention, there's nothing going on and it's kinda dead. There have also been allegations that charity mistreats animals, which amplify when pictures of the tortoise were released. According to Twitter users, there were signs of abuse and neglect on the tortoise's shell. On the website, the charity profits by allowing children to paint the tortoise with stamps, glitter, and feathers. Painting their shells is toxic and can cause death. There's a misconception that stems from the idea that human fingernails and tortoise shells are made of the same protein, keratin. It is time for humans to paint their fingernails with nail polish. The same goes that tortoise shells can be painted on as well. However, according to tortoiseorgan.com, painting a tortoise or turtle shell will expose the animal to high levels of toxic chemicals. This will lead slowly into the reptile's body, building up to the bloodstream. This will lead to illness, weakness, and eventually death. Painting notes also release toxins to the bloodstream, although it's so small that it doesn't cause an issue. In contrast, tortoise bodies are completely covered that shell, leaving over their limbs, tail, and head exposed to the air. There's also issues with sun blocking, impeding height regulation, respiratory issues, and shell deformation. When it comes to animal abuse, there are also been reports of the sanctuary putting alligators in pools with young children, while treating exotic animals like lab pets. They even showed pictures where they were culturally appropriate Native Americans. I'd like to tell you the story of I_queer, one of the attendees who was at the convention, and why these furry conventions need to be shut down. The family wasn't well off, so he never traveled out of state, and their parents would never pay to go to Antarctica, which is 1,000 miles away. When he found a furry convention that was 2 hours away from their house, it was a once-in-a-life opportunity and convinced their parents to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma to go. They were pursuing a career in art, and as a furry artist, he felt it was a good opportunity to promote their art and get a few commissions. They were experiencing conventions, they did no prior research of free-for-all. They only knew that two Griffin was there, and they made an effort not to interact or buy anything from them. They didn't know who was going, what things they did, and don't support the convention anyway. Upon arrival, there were very few cars, a lot of police officers out of the building. Despite this, there was no security and not a single member of law enforcement was in sight. When they paid for registration, they were not asked for their government IDs, which is in the convention's rules. They arrived during a time when nothing was happening due to a lack of attendees, so they left to come back later to the dealer's den. They found a reptile stand and asked permission before picking up a bearded dragon, noticing how it didn't move and how cold it was. It never moved when it picked up, except for the occasional head tilt. They entered the game room, and staff decided there were bags for a security issue, so they placed it on a flimsy shield that looked like it was about to break, but they got the bags back after. The mother noticed the lack of security, which made them both uncomfortable, so they left and returned to the hotel. After that, they decided to look on to Twitter when they realized the staff was made up of conservatives, along with attendees who had intercourse with animals and private individuals, which horrified them. The fact that these conventions are allowed to exist can bring unsuspecting people like them, which considering that many of the attendees advocate for violence and other crimes is simply unacceptable. We can't allow these places to exist, bringing furries who don't know better and putting them in potential harm's way. It's a good thing and nothing bad to them because this can seriously change their view on the fandom and give a bad look for everyone. We need to shame both the individuals who are running such a violent convention, but also attendees who know about the controversies but decide to support it anyways. Finally, after all that, at closing ceremonies, there were 207 attendees, 8,000 raised for charity, and they'll be back for 2023. Knowing the fact that these numbers could be inflated, this is a bad turnout. Tales and Tornadoes FurCon, a furry convention that happens in the same city in 2019, had 507 attendees, which is 145% increase compared to Free For All. The fact that they closed their potential attendee base to be only conservatives who are okay with far-right bigots and unofficial convention chat, as well as staff, is simply not good luck for America's Anthem Convention. While it's true it's not the quantity of the attendees, but the quality of them, having such a low number of attendees puts into question the financial stability of the convention.
As for the Just of Honors, there are two of them who are in a relationship. The first is JSONAFX FA, a furry artist who's best known for the furry dating game Amorous. The other is Cabs Corner Arts, another furry artist. JSONAFX created content on intimate relationship with animals, while manipulating their audience into donating to improve their living conditions only to buy a dog. They even refused to draw arts for someone who won a raffle as it wasn't suggested, only for someone else to draw it and leave a rubric comment in response. Cabs Corner Art used racial slurs and accused a fellow furry who they moved in with for straining the relationship because they were asked them to pay rent.
We don't know if the convention is going to be bigger next year, but if this year is anything to go by, it's not going to be better than last time. If you want to hear about a furry convention and had some trouble, check why Denver almost failed.